And we're live, sweetie.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm trying to get my tablet here so I can see what's going on. Hey, I see, let's see, I see Jessica, Melissa, Frank, Donna. All the hearts. I see all the hearts. I see them. I see them. We're having some technical difficulties today.
Okay. I just let everybody know.
All right.
Hi, Donnelly Little. How you doing? Hello, Jessica. How's everything going? Hey, Frank. Always great to see you. Howdy, Nancy. Emma Burgess. How you doing? That's a new name for me.
Yeah.
And Melissa Boone. How you doing again?
Louise. Hi, Louise. Hi, Beth Sullivan. Hello, everybody. So usually I can see myself in real time, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen today. We're having some technical difficulties with something called Discord. So if my hands go out of frame, you just let Mish know and he'll tell me to go back in frame. So, do we still have a start screen that says expired, Mish?
No, we do not. We're up on the mainstream.
Okay. Alrighty. You can try to call me in Discord again if you'd like.
Okay, give me 30 seconds.
But hopefully everybody can see what's going on. And they can hear
me. Do you need to pick up sweet cakes?
And I'm going to try to answer this call.
Can you hear me, sweetie?
I can hear you.
Okay, let us go ahead and share the stream.
Oh, thank you, everybody, for your patience with us today. Oh, good. I can see what's going on. Oh, I can actually see the chat, too. That's great. That's great. Whatever you're doing there, I can see the chat. All right.
Oh, that's because I've got you on the wrong screen. Give me a second. That's
no,
my
just
fault.
Leave me there. Don't do anything. Just
that's 30 seconds behind.
Okay, so I'm gonna close. It says close the stream. I'll try that.
No, there you. No. You should be right.
Don't do it. I'm not doing anything. I'm not touching anything. I'm not the technical person. Woo! Sorry about that. And again, thanks for your patience. It's just one of those Fridays.
You ever have a Friday that you hop out of the shower, you're all relaxed, and all hell breaks loose? I have. I am Mary Joy.
Okay, guys, excuse me 1 minute. I'm going to close this door. We had the door open so Mish could holler to me and I could holler to Mish, but we don't need that now. There we go. Sort of closed. Hold on.
I hope everybody's had a great week this week. Howdy, Beth. How you doing?
So if you're new to our live streams, it's not usually quite this chaotic at the beginning, but it is today. So today I'm going to talk about these Mandala earrings. And they're very, very popular. They're popular at, street fairs and markets. And they're very, very popular actually online. So I keep making them and they keep selling out. And they're not hard to make. They're not hard to make at all. But I just did a few things with them in terms of design elements that I think really help them look professional and that make them popular. So we're going to talk about that.
And by the way, just so folks know, those are the last three. They're only $20. You should buy them before they're out.
You've been, okay. So Nancy's been stalking.
Ah,
Yeah, true.
we had this discussion when we began streaming. I wondered when we'll get our first stalker. We've got our first stalker.
And hi from Maryland to from Carol. Hi. And oh, okay, Madonna. If you have to drop off, that's okay. We understand. We'll be leaving this one up. So the story of these earrings is kind of an interesting one. Um, it began with some scrap clay, and I am working on some tutorials about color where I give you color recipes. But for these particular earrings, very often what happens is I have a lot of scrap clay, and Mish will mix it up for me. And he very often comes up with like a really nice color. And so I'll say, "Oh, don't make that into mud. Keep that color." So that's what happened here is you know, I wound up with a really nice purple one time, or this is a really pretty blue green. Um, or this, it's not quite wasabi. It's wasabi with a few things in it. So I wind up with these, nice colors. And now I know that when lots of people learn about color in polymer clay, they use what's known as the CMY color wheel. So that's cyan, magenta, and yellow. And that's certainly a good thing to learn, right? Because especially like with Primo, I think Mags Maggio, she has a whole color mixing system based on cobalt blue, zinc yellow, and fuchsia, because those are the CMY primaries, and in the brand Primo, they don't have any white, and so they mix really well into all the other different colors. But for this particular project, I just pulled out my old color wheel that I've had. Oh my gosh,
I think
forever.
it's moved through 3 houses so far.
And so I had this yellow orange, and the yellow orange, pretty much matches this pure yellow orange here. And then normally what I'll do from there is I'll either I usually will pick a split complementary. So if you look here, here's our pure color, and if you come down here and you come down here, a split complementary would be blue and violet. But I didn't have any blue violet, so I went with this other triad. And so split complementary is when you use the pure color and then the colors on either side of the complementary color. This particular triad is you pick your pure color and then you go down 2 colors to red violet and 2 colors to blue green. And so I had this is souffle mixed with a few other colors that was pretty much red violet. And then I also had a blue green all mixed up. And you don't need much clay to make these. So that is the color combination that I used. Now, I am going to suggest that, especially if you've mixed up colors, if you've made your own blends, I do suggest that you go ahead and bake them so that you can see what they look like when they're baked. I'm sorry, this one. So this is actually a little bit darker. It surprised me than when it baked. It baked up a little bit lighter. This one baked up just about the same, and this one baked up just about the same. And again, I'm sorry I don't have color recipes for you today, but I am working on tutorials where would have color recipes for you. So if you look at these 3 colors, if you were to design something where you used equal amounts of these colors, I think it'd be pretty overwhelming. I think it would, be pretty clashy. So, when you're using triads and you're using, or split complementaries or even complementary, proportion um, becomes pretty important, right? So if you were using complementary colors, like one of the things you could do is just have pops of the complement. You don't want to use equal amounts. A good example of that is, for Christmas we use red and green, and that's where all those ugly sweaters come from, right? Because they're using equal amounts of red and green, and it's pretty clashy. So what you want to do is you want to use proportions. So I have here these colors cut into the shapes I'm using. And this design automatically allows you to use, just a small part of one color, a little bit more of the other color, and then a lot of one of the colors. And that's one of the things that helps it work. If I were to use equal amounts of green and orange and purple, you probably wouldn't like it. But this way, just a little bit of the green shows through, just a little bit of the orange shows through, and a whole bunch of the purple shows through. So if you were to take some samples and put them together, it's kind of interesting because no matter how you put these three together, it works, right? So there, that's mostly the yellow is showing. And here mostly the green is showing. And then here, mostly that red, purple, red, violet color is showing. So no matter how you put them together, it works, and it's a pleasing color combination. But it's because we're paying attention to the proportion, how much of each color is showing, how much becomes, sort of center stage in the design. So there's my boring part about color.
You did well. I learn more about color every day than I think anybody can imagine.
So now we'll get into the construction of them. And the construction of them is really, really easy. So the first thing that I did is I knew I wanted to make earrings. And so you just want to make sure that you have enough of each color, to get two of the shapes. This is the larger. And these cutters are from Create Along. But you can use any, concentric cutters. You could use just circles or flowers or, anything like that. But these ones are from Create Along. And so the very first thing I did was I silk screened. And the silk screens that I used were also from, Create Along. But is Mary Joy here? She's got some great.
Yeah, she was bounding around somewhere. Yeah, she's got some.
She's got some great silk screens too. This silk screen here, I don't think this one is available anymore. This one was from tinypandora.com, and I just don't think it's sold there anymore. But the thing to keep in mind about the silk screens is you would want the silk screens to match the mood of what you're doing. So this is a real kind of boho design, right? It's it evokes mandalas and incense and patchouli and hippies.
Hey, I resemble that.
I do too. So I wouldn't use, a silk screen that has like a geometric pattern on it, right? I wouldn't use like circles and squares. Or you want some silk screens that have sort of a romantic feel to them, right? Now I have a container of soapy water off to the side here. You guys can't see it, but anytime that you're going to silk screen, you want to have some water available. And I actually want to put this down on a piece of paper if I can stop it from getting all over the place. And most silk screens have kind of a shinier side and a dull side. And usually people put the shinier side down. These are from Create Along. This is also from Create Along. These are different than most of the silk screens that you see. These ones are not made with emulsion. They're
Oh,
made with some sort of heat. Go ahead.
Hey Krithika, long time no see. Krithika
Hi.
says that the Create Along cutters are sold out.
Oh, they are. Wow. Well, I know that they're having some trouble because of COVID getting their filament and stuff like that. So if you let them know that you want them, if you let them know that you want them, they'll try to get some made for you.
Sue, you
'Cause-
didn't miss much. Cynthia just talked a little bit about how to do some color things. That's my quick explanation. Uh, so
so
that's right at the
I
beginning of the video for replay.
I talked about uh, using a triadic color combination, and one of the ways that you can successfully use a triadic color combination is that um, you use them in proportions. So with this earring design, a lot of the purple color is showing, not so much of the orange and the green is showing. If we were to put equal amounts of purple, orange, and green into a design, it would be clashy. It wouldn't look so great. Now, I find with these particular create along designs, I find I can kind of put the dull side down and it sort of grips the clay better. I've seen people do it the other way. So, but this is the way that's been successful for me. Now, lots of times when I silk screen, I'll use a stencil brush or, a paintbrush. But for this, where I'm going to just go ahead and silk screen the entire piece of clay. I've actually already used this silk screen, so I won't use this one. I'll go ahead and just use a squeegee to do it. All right. Now I'm using my Dacia silk screen right here, guys. This one is pretty old, and sometimes I have good luck with it, and sometimes I don't. But we'll see.
Hey, Nora J, that is a long explanation how the camera setup is set up here. We're using a two-camera setup. On her face is a Logitech 650, and on the work surface is a 920 wide format HD camera.
So, Noche, I saw that the International Polymer Clay Association is going to have a Zoom meeting, and and this week's subject is going to be camera setups. So I'm not sure I can make the Zoom meeting, but I was going to go ahead and take some photos of our camera setup and send it in. The thing about our camera setup is we used to stream 5 nights a week on a platform called Twitch. And so it was really like how we were making our living. So well before coronavirus or COVID 19, we had these cameras. We even have another camera that we could put on Mish. So I don't, and also Mish is like really technically savvy, and he knows about a program called OBS, and Discord. And so, our setup is pretty complicated, but
It's not
my
complicated, it's in depth.
it's in depth, right? But my basic setup for right now is I'm pretty much sitting in front of a 24 by 24 light tent that has a hole in the top. It's a light cube, not a light tent. And the camera that shows my hands is on this piece of pipe that Mish made. So it can go up and down, but it also has a zoom feature, and that's through the hole at the top of the light tent. And the camera that's on my face is at the back of the light tent on a homemade wooden stand.
And then I run this all through a mixing board, and Cynthia's right. We can do things, this will come through in a few minutes, like zoom in on what she's working on. I've got the screens laid out in quadrants, so if she moves to a particular quadrant, the camera will follow her there. It gives us a lot of freedom when we're teaching to really let people see.
Yeah.
Hey, so Teresa Salgado, how you doing?
Hey, Teresa. Hey, Teresa Salgado. Next week I'm going to do, I can't do it this week because Teresa's doing a drawing. People had to guess which members of the design team made So Jelly Compacts. So I really wanted to do my So Jelly Compact this week, but I have to wait till next week to do that. Okay. So this actually, like I said, this silkscreen was available in Teresa's shop. I don't think it's available anymore. So I just have some paint on a I guess a squeegee. This squeegee is from Sculpey, and I'm just going to go ahead and wipe the paint across. I have some soapy water off to the side. You guys can't see it, and I'll put the silkscreen right in the soapy water when I'm done. I'm going to warn you guys that this is it's a very old silkscreen. I've had a little trouble with it lately, but I'm going to go ahead and be daring and just go ahead and silkscreen.
Norgie, I've helped a few people with stream setups and what's kind of the best way from simple to complex to do. So, feel free to reach out, and we're always willing to sit down and have a chat.
So, and hopefully this came out okay. Like I said, this silk screen is missing a little bit of emulsion here and there. And
that looks beautiful, sweetie.
It came out great. And then I go ahead and put the silk screen right in the water. And then, of course, we're just going to wait. You have to wait for it to dry, right? Usually silk screen paint doesn't take too long to dry. So far, you can see it's pretty easy, right? I did think a lot about the colors that I'm using. I am using colors that you might look at and say, hey, I don't think those are gonna go. But if you do them in the right proportions, they go pretty good. So we'll go ahead and put this one aside.
I wanted to comment to Sue. It's funny, but Technomiche, I was a big Devo fan in the 80s. So that does kind of fit. I think that's Cynthia's polite way of saying I'm the big geek of the family.
I'm very happy that he's geeky because I never would be able to set all this up by myself. So
Teresa would like to know, is that souffle? No, those are custom mixes by me.
Well, no, this is
is that what souffle?
Yeah. So what happened, Teresa, is that Mish accidentally mixed up this yellow orange for me.
I didn't accidentally. I did it on purpose.
So what I did is I know everybody, with clay, they use the CMY color wheel, and it's very much worth your while to learn that and use it. But I just, took my old fashioned color wheel and I said, okay, this is pretty much, let me get down here. This is pretty much yellow orange, right? And let me get my wet paint out of the way. So I knew I was starting with yellow orange, and then I picked what they call a triadic color combination. You could do split complementaries, that's three colors, but I did the type of triadic where you skip two colors on the color wheel. You get or your original color, skip two colors, and pick blue, green, and red, violet. And so see the color wheel tells you that you're picking. It helps you with that. And so now what I'm doing is I'm
Frank is calling you an art geek.
an art geek. I am a little bit of an art geek. So
Hi, Mary
I
Vanwood.
did go to art school for a little while, but I got sick, and my dad decided it was art school that made me sick. It's so he didn't want to pay for me to go back, so I wound up going to nursing school. So anyways, so the trick, like have said before, the trick is we don't want to have equal amounts of a triadic color combination showing, or we want to use them in proportion. I guess this is actually split complementary. You can see a lot of the purple, not so much of the orange, not so much of the green. So we're going to do the same thing with this triadic color combination. So I made up some little samples here so I can kind of decide which color do I want to show up in the middle. I kind of like this combination a lot. This is the combination I wound up making too. But let's see if I have enough of these clay colors to do this combination today. I think this might be interesting. And that's kind of what's going to decide it for us. Yeah. So I don't have enough of this yellow clay to do two of the biggest, I guess, lotus flowers. So we'll probably do this color combination again. And so again, you don't have to use these specific cutters. Any concentric cutters, even circles, a smaller circle, a larger circle, a larger circle would work with this. Or if you have flowers, this type of thing I was thinking would even be it's sort of interesting to do with geometric shapes even. So when I use these cutters, lots of times what I'll do is I'll spray the clay and I'll spray the cutter. But I can't really do that, or I don't want to do that here because I don't want to I don't want the paint to dissolve. So I'm just going to spray the cutter. And I can guarantee you that it's not going to be the cleanest edge. A lot of people, I'm going to kind of rub it back and forth on the surface.
So, sweetie, Krithika says it would be cool to also put a light color in the middle to separate the darker ones. That's one of the
Yeah,
things this design really gives you, that freedom, right? You can arrange your patterns and colors so that, the cool factor comes out.
it's a really so it's not a very complicated project from a technique standpoint. Silk screening isn't complicated. Cutting out a shape that's already been designed for you isn't at all complicated, but it is a cool way to really be able to concentrate on some color combinations and really put some of that color theory to um, into practice. Not only did I make sure that these colors here were presented in a certain proportion, but I also did what they call toning of the colors. So if you look at a color wheel here, it says tint, tone, and shade, right? So tinting is when we add white, and shading is when we add black, and toning is when we add a gray, or in some cases, the complement of of the major color. And so that's another way to combine complementary colors, split complementary colors, or triadic color combinations without it being just jarring to the eyes, glaring to the eyes. There's a few other things I did here, um, and I'll show you in just a second.
She's always teasing us like this.
So here's this color combination put together, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But then if you, I'll show you how I did it. I used a Prismacolor pen to outline the edges of the shapes, and that accomplishes something called framing. So when you put these shapes together, you're telling the eye to start here and sort of move all the way around and around till you get to the center. All right, and so if you use the Prismacolor pencil, marker, you're emphasizing those lines, and so it's helping the eye even more. And then finally, I used a focal element, because these are very busy designs, and so the eye can get kind of confused. There's just too many places to look. It's so busy. There's a lot going on. But then if you just give the eye one place to sort of rest before it begins its journey again, it helps a lot.
Deborah Gabriel says hi. She made it.
Hey, Deborah.
And to catch up on Krithika, she's saying it's a very cool design, and she agrees with you. I think most people know she loves silk screening, and it's a really nice way to get some really good layered design elements in there.
Yeah, at one point I said, geez, I don't know that I need to use a different silk screen for every layer. I'm not sure that that's necessary. But believe it or not, it does add to it. It does help separate the layers. Now, I chose, to go pretty neutral with the paint. I chose to use, white paint. And I think I just I didn't feel that black would add to anything, but I bet you a very dark brown, like an umber, might be interesting, especially if you use lighter colors. And I bet you that gold. I bet you gold would look pretty on a lot of these.
Howdy, Nikki. How you doing? Nah, you're that's what the replays are there for. Glad to have you in channel.
So I don't. I'm not like Megs and Lindley. I don't know that I'm a color expert, but I really do try to think about color and all these other design elements. I just try to think about them. I think that, when you are a full-fledged artist and you've been a full-fledged artist for years and years and years, that you don't have to think about it so much. But I still do. And oftentimes I might not think about it while I'm actually designing, but if I have a design that I don't like, I like having the knowledge about the elements of design and the principles of design and some color theory behind me, because it often helps me figure out how to fix something that I don't like. And I think that's probably how like a fully trained person who's been an artist for years, that's probably how they use their knowledge. And let's see if this is dry enough. It is. Now the great thing about this project too is if you mess up the silk screening, you can usually cut around it. Or if you can't cut around it, you know that a good deal of this is going to be covered up, right? So if a part of your silk screen comes out a little blurry, or maybe it doesn't transfer all the way. Um, place the cutter so that that will be in the middle, because then you can cover, nobody will ever see it. You can
Ju-
cover it up.
so
All right.
Judy Colville is asking what you're spraying on the cutters with.
Water. Just plain old everyday water. All right, so let's get it this way, I think. And I shouldn't have cut on this paper. Hold on. These cutters don't work as well on paper. So, um, plastic cutters don't leave the nicest edge, but I think that's a trade-off for these great shapes that we can get. Or like, please visit Mary Joy's store, because she makes color me kits. It's a silk screen, and then the cutter fits around the silk screen, so you can have matching things. All right. So there you go. Again, this is pretty simple. This is pretty simple. And, I encourage you. I purposely used some pretty funky colors to put together today. I really did do that on purpose, just to kind of show that you'd be surprised what you can combine. And there are there are these tools out there. There's color wheels. There's online color wheels. There's uh, you know, that are free. There's all kinds of places that will help you combine colors.
I'm glad to see you still there, Jessica.
Are you still with us, Jess?
Hey, Elsa, welcome on in. You can see the replay. There's never too late in here.
It's never too late. Basically, we're making a very simple project today, and it's a project that I use to practice color combinations, to practice triadic color combinations.
And
Now,
I and I will say these are very popular. They really
oh
are.
yeah, they really appeal to people. So you can see here that I am cleaning up the edges here. I'm just using a blade, and then, once I get it cleaned up with the blade, I'll probably use a clay smoother to get my edges cleaned up as much as possible prior to baking. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, why I do that, and that has to do with production work. So when I make something, out of polymer clay especially, I pay very close attention to the amount of time it takes me to make something, because the pricing formula that I use is that I'm just going to pick a number out of the air. Say I decide that, in order for my business to be worthwhile, I have to be making $20 an hour. So, what I'm going to do is take into account the price of the materials. And when it's polymer clay, I can make quite a few of these out of scrap polymer clay. So the cost in materials isn't that much, right? Um, the findings that I used for these were a little bit more pricey. These ear wires are a little bit more pricey than some of the other ear wires that I've bought, because I've more and more been very careful to buy ones that are truly hypoallergenic, not necessarily from Michael's craft store, or Hobby Lobby, where it's a little bit dicey whether or not those are truly truly hypoallergenic. Um, so really, uh, it's the time involved in these that I would really be aware of. So probably what I'd do, or what I have done to make a sort of a production line for these is you would I would get a whole bunch of clay silk screened, then I would get a whole bunch of pieces cut, then I would clean up the edges, because one thing I discovered the first couple of times I've made these is I don't want to leave these edges rough, and to sand them after baking. You do have to do some sanding, but when I left them really rough, the sanding took way too long. And so in order for me to make, $20 an hour, on these earrings, I was going to have to sell them for like $40 a piece. And that's because, the time is money. So one of the things I did is, I said, well, I'm going to get them a lot more cleaned up prior to baking, because that cut the time to the point where I can sell them for $20 and I'm still making a profit. Now I did use the Sculpey hollow bead maker for these, so again, you want to get them as cleaned up as possible. Get the edges cleaned up as possible, and I put the largest shape. I can't remember what these are called now, if these are called the lotus flowers. Again, pretend those are all cleaned up. I put the largest shape in the largest depression. I put the second largest shape in this second largest depression. And then the smallest shape in the third largest depression. And, of course, you're going to make sure that your paint is good and dry, because you do have to kind of pat them down a little bit, because they want to pop up from the bead maker.
Hey, Paula Eppley, how you doing? Welcome on in.
Okay, so there you go. There's and I bake them, and I bake everything in 45 minutes or an hour, and nothing breaks.
What's the temperature, sweetie?
So for these, I did do 275, because I know that they're mostly Primo and Souffle. They're a mix of Primo and Souffle. All right. So you get them all baked up. Again, this is not, from a technique standpoint, this is not a difficult project. Then when they came out of the oven, oh, that little puppy cracked. When they came out of the oven, I did sand the edges and the backs. And especially you want to sand, the back of the largest piece, because that's going to show on the back of the earrings. And that's something that you want to keep in mind, is that, if you're selling, you have to finish it all. If you're just going to wear them yourself, well, although you never know, you have a pair of earrings that you made on, and somebody says, oh, let me see that, that's so pretty. And if they flip it over and it's got paint and stuff like that on it, maybe they were going to buy a pair from you, but now they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. But again, I did use Prismacolor pen on the edges of all mine. And again, I'll just kind of show you how that pen, so I'm going to put them together.
So Norjay says, thanks, really hope to see you tomorrow.
Okay, Norjay, I'll really try. Yeah, I'm really going to try. I haven't made one so far, but I'm really going to try. So, this pen just helps frame these pieces, and just helps the eye travel the way that you want it to. So let me show them to you. And I do apologize, because, so these are the Prismacolor markers, art markers. And they have a chisel tip and a fine tip, and they're very permanent. And I have not had them change color if I have to put something back in the oven, or so far I haven't used all the colors on them yet.
Sweetie,
And go
Krithika
ahead.
says, I wish I could shout this from the rooftop. Pay attention to your backsides.
Yeah, you do, right? Like I would never sell that. I would never sell that. And um, you really I'm going to show you a little technique I use to get this kind of suede effect. Your edges, if you want to sell things, your edges, um, your backs, everything. If you're going to use a marker or paint, right, it doesn't cover up any defects in the edges. It highlights them, right? So like if I had two layers here, sometimes you can see the seam. I'll actually backfill that seam so that you can't see it, right? Because you usually can't get it sanded. So again, this is I am using dark umber. I very rarely use black. Um, I just, sometimes it's a good choice. But for something like this, I didn't want to go with straight black. I wanted, even though it looks very dark, I wanted to keep that kind of boho look. So I'm basically just coloring the edges. And so see, it's a very subtle framing, but I think it made a big difference. Now, if you get some of this where you don't want it, if you work quickly enough, if you move quickly enough, you can use alcohol to remove it, or you can sand it off. So I just sort of went all the way around with the chisel tip, because again, that's quick, right? To use the larger chisel tip. Chisel? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I forgot how to talk today. Chisel tip.
The fashizzle chip.
I know for sure. I know I feel like Snoop Dogg. It's the for shizzles. Um, right? All the way around. And then the great thing about these, like I said, that's the chisel tip. But they also have this finer tip. And so I was able to really get into these little areas here. Now, if you don't have these markers, um, experiment and see if you have other markers that won't fade and fall apart and all that stuff. Or you could actually just use some flat brown paint. I wouldn't do anything shiny. Okay, so all the way around. Now these do take a little bit to dry, um, but generally in about, oh, I probably wait about a half an hour before I mess around. And then there's two different ways that you can put things together. And one is with a gel super glue, where you would just basically use the gel super glue to glue them together. You actually do have to drill a hole first. Or you can get your edges sanded, all sanded, and your back looking pretty good, and put your ink on, and then you can put the earrings together with some liquid clay, and then bake them again.
So, sweetie, Mary Vanderwood says the pins are expensive, but they last forever. And we will attest to that. These pins have
Yeah.
lasted us forever. And Jane Evans asks, can you use Sharpie markers for the edge?
So Sharpies fade sometimes, and I know the black Sharpie fades to like a purplish color. Um, I don't know like what a dark brown Sharpie does. I'm going to be honest with you. I would suggest you experiment. I'd suggest you try it and see what happens. But when I say see what happens, that means, observe it and see what happens like over time. you know, um, I just have used these a lot, and I know I can put them back in the oven.
Thanks,
And
Teresa. When you get a second, what was the clay thickness on these?
oh,
S-
four,
so
setting
these were,
four. That so they're medium setting. Whatever's the medium setting on your pasta machine.
yeah, and Mary Vanderwood's agreeing with you, and she also followed up that she wouldn't use Sharpies. I have seen them turn purple. They do. It's kind of the weirdest thing.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the black one though. I don't know what the rest of those colors do. I don't know if they fade or turn a funny color.
I know they just get
I
all
have
over my
seen
fingers.
I have seen people use them. Um, I have seen people use them for like the color me silk screens and stuff like that. And I don't know if they fade or what they do. So then the final thing that you would want to think about is, making that little focal point, making that place for the eye to rest. Now I use these little ceramic, uh, they're they're heat set, the little ceramic.
Ah, so Jessica and Linda hatches. They fade and run. Jessica said she's done some experiments.
Ah, well, thank you, Jessica. And again, there's two ways. You can either just glue that little puppy right in the middle, and again, I would use the gel super glue. Um, I like this Gorilla Glue, but boy, you have to really wipe off the cap before you put the cap on. You have to make sure that everything is capped really tightly because this tends to dry up on you. Um, this one isn't completely dried up, but I can't really squeeze it out of the bottle anymore. I have to open the whole thing up and get some out on a toothpick. So I'm a little disappointed in that because because it's a gel, it stays kind of flexible, and it holds things really well for me. But what can I say? What can I say? So that's kind of the final piece. So again, none of these techniques are hard techniques. You're not going to have to practice the techniques for months and months and months. It's just being kind of thoughtful about the colors that you use and just the little details, just the little teeny, teeny, tiny details, like to darken the edges. I think just makes a huge difference. Um, and you think about it's a busy pattern, so you want a place for the eye to rest. And then the final thing that I do with these is generally I sand the sides just at 400. I don't want the sides to be too smooth because I'm coloring them in with the Prismacolor marker. I want to give that marker something to kind of a tooth. They call it a tooth. If you're using paper, they call it the tooth of the paper. If it's a little bit rough, then paint or ink goes on a little bit easier. And you don't have to do quite so many coats of it. And then for the very backs here, I do a little bit of sanding, on the backs of the smaller pieces. But for this very back piece, I'll do 400 up to about 800. And then I learned this from Jeffrey Lloyd Deaver. I give them kind of a sueded. Um, I don't do this as much as I used to do because souffle already gives you kind of a sueded texture. But if you want that same sort of texture that souffle has um, when you're using just regular Primo or another brand of clay, then what you could do is you can use some steel wool. Sorry, I have a very itchy nose today. Does that mean I'm going to get in a fight? So here I'm using what they call triple aught steel wool. 3 zeros steel wool. And I'm actually very surprised. See, it took that little bit of paint right off there for me. And I'm moving in a circular motion because this can scratch. So I'm keeping it in a circle. And now normally I would see that there, all the filings there. Normally I would put a mask on to use this stuff. You don't want to inhale steel wool. How are we doing for time, Mish?
You are sitting at 58 minutes, sweetie.
Mhm. So I won't.
I will verify that with YouTube, and I think that's about right. Yeah, okay. I was surprised. Time's going by nicely, but you're covering the material well.
Mhm. And no, I haven't sanded the back of this with sandpaper yet. So this is taking a little bit longer than it normally would take. But again, I just go in a circular motion around the whole piece. And that gives you just this nice sort of suede finish. You don't have to spend a lot of time putting a textured back on here. Um, but the suede,
I
if you
believe,
if
Teresa, that was a number 4 thickness, right? Not a number 1. Were all your sheets the same thickness?
all my sheets were the same thickness, I do apologize. They all were medium thickness. So that's setting 4 on my machine, whatever. Because when I teach tutorials and stuff like that, I always try to use either the thickest, the thickest, the medium, and the thinnest, because I figure that's about the same on everybody's machine. So whatever is the medium setting on your machine would probably work just fine for this. And I don't like.
And one more question for you. Jane Evans, she heard the temp to cure, but how long did you cure those pieces?
I cure everything for 45 minutes to an hour. Now, if you were to read the instructions, these are, technically should only take 15 minutes. But, see, these are pretty, they're pretty thin, but they're also nice and flexible. Um, you can see that I can really roll them around and do all kinds of stuff to them, and they're not cracking. They're not cracking and breaking, even though they're kind of thin, because I wanted to keep them pretty lightweight. Now, when you put all 3 layers together, you can't really bend them like that. It's a pretty big earring, but I wanted to keep it pretty lightweight. I hear a lot that people don't like really heavy earrings. Sometimes I do have, I've had customers who like a heavier pendant. I had a woman say that she liked a pendant that was heavy enough that it didn't, bang up and down if she walked quickly.
See, it's funny. I'm wondering if it's a male female thing because when I was wearing earrings many moons ago, I liked a heavier feel to the earring.
Yeah, some people it really stretches the holes. I mean, these days most people go someplace and get their ears pierced, but I got my ears pierced when I was a baby, because culturally that was okay to do then. Like, people didn't. So I was a little baby and they did them at home. And they did them with these things called sleepers, which are earrings that slowly but surely make their way through your ears. But like a lot of my cousins and my aunts and stuff like that, they have very uneven holes in their ears because it wasn't done by a professional. And so one of my aunts had her earlobe actually split because she was wearing heavier earrings, and the hole was sort of too low on her lobe. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess. I guess. Um, so try that trick. Try that trick with the steel wool from time to time. It gives a nice, like I said, suede finish, really similar to souffle. And today we're working on earrings, but it's a nice finish too. It won't it, the clay won't stick to somebody's skin. That's People complain about that a lot with polymer clay. So most of us put like if we take the time to put a textured finish on the back of things, and we dome things, and we do all kinds of stuff like that to them. That's the one other thing I wanted to bring up. Now, of course, these are all decorated, but doming and cupping pieces makes a huge difference in how they look too. You know, actually, it's this one, right? So this is pretty much.
So Stacy Arnold says, great tip with the steel wool.
Yeah, I had a book, and Jeffrey Lloyd Deaver, I believe is his name. He's an extremely talented person. He uses the steel wool a lot. I think he goes up one more zero than me. He does like quadruple odd steel wool.
And
So
so,
when this design is flat, it looks so much different than when you just put a little curve in it, right? I
okay,
like the curve better.
now you've taken me to Portlandia and put a bird on it, but that's a
Put a bird
different
on it.
issue.
Put a bird on it. So
Krithika, by the way, just to catch up on a few things, Krithika says her ears were pierced as a baby too. They have a whole ceremony around it.
oh, really?
Yeah, mine were
Yeah.
pierced at 17 by a diaper pin. That's how technical I got.
Don't
Uh,
don't do
don't
Misha's
do as I
method.
do.
Um, so the last thing I wanted to talk about was drilling. So, you know, you've got two pairs of, earrings here. And, because one's on one side of the head and the other's on the other side of the head, you can kind of get away with a lot, right? Like if this wasn't exactly centered, um, if that was a slightly different color than this one, there's a whole lot you can get away with when it comes, to earrings. But one thing that you can't get away with is if they hang at different lengths, right? If somebody puts on earrings and one's here and one's up there, they're going to be returning those earrings or not buying them in the first place, right? Um, they're not going to like that. So you do want to make sure that you drill them with the hole in the same place. And now, if I were doing a bunch of these, like for a show, I would probably go ahead and tape a bunch of them together and drill them all at the same time. Now, see what I was talking about? You can get away with the inside of your design being messed up for this design, the bearings, because that gets covered up. But what I would do, if I were just making one pair, is again, you want to start with the smallest drill bit that you have. What is this one? Does it say on it? Well, it does. I guess this is a 1/16. This is a Cobalt Speed Fit drill set. I better find some specs. I better put some specs on here. Just hold them together. Now you could put holes in these prior to baking them too. You could go ahead and use a cocktail straw or something that has a hole in it. I almost always drill afterwards because I might want to change the orientation. I sometimes change my mind. But I'm going to go not too close to the edge, but a very small drill bit. The smaller you start, the better off you are. The better off you are. And you just want to be cognizant of your jump rings, right? You don't want to drill the hole so far from the edge that you can't close the jump ring, or you have to use a huge jump ring. So now I've started the holes in just about the same place. Oh, excuse me. So I can continue to drill and know that, they're going to hang at the same level, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
What do we have? We have 3 complete sets, right? You have 2 of these, and I have 1 of these for the drill.
No, what I did is I had like a half a set. A bunch of them we was sharing a set. So we was sharing a set, and a bunch of them kind of got lost. A bunch of these drill bits got lost. Again, it's called. I'll put it together so you guys can see it. And then I bought another. Then I bought another set, and you bought another set, and then we sort of had like a complete set, and then 2 really messed up sets. With a bunch of them were missing, and so what I did is I put those 2 incomplete sets together for you, so that you had them more. But this is it. It's called, and I think I got it just at Lowe's.
Yeah, that's the Lowe's make of that's their lower end tools, but it works great for clay and wood.
Mm. And then we talked about ear wires when I showed people how to make ear wires. And again, this is some advice if you're going to sell jewelry. There's a ton of people that have really bad reactions to nickel. And there's a ton of people who sell what they call hypoallergenic ear wires, and they're really not, right? So if you what I always suggest is niobium or titanium. Even sterling silver has nickel in it. Even stainless steel has nickel in it. There are Rio Grande sells some hypoallergenic ear wires. I think they're stainless steel, but they say that the nickel in it is encapsulated, so people won't react to it. Um, these are treated niobium. They're niobium that's been made to look like silver. They're shiny. So, they're pricier. They're more money. So if you can't afford those, that's okay. That's okay. But you need to let your customers know that, well, that's probably not, hypoallergenic. You just need to let them know about that. Some people have some pretty serious reactions. So, but that's it. That's how I make these earrings that always sell out.
They do. I mean, a funny story on these. This weekend, I think we put them up Sunday, didn't we?
Yeah.
And
Saturday or Sunday, I put them up. Anyway,
and you've met him in stream a couple times. My friend John had messaged me Friday saying he wanted to buy a couple pairs for his daughter. And I said, dude, I'll let you know as soon as we put up, give you first crack at it. And I sent him a note, and he spaced for a day, and 3 were gone. 3 whole sets. It's just within 24 hours, we dropped 3 sets of these because they're eye-catching, they're comfortable, they're unique.
So I would love to see you guys make some of these, and I'd love to see, like, is somebody brave enough to do them in neon or different shapes? Different
Sue Howard
shapes.
is asking a really interesting. She's really sorry to be a bit dorky. That's okay. You're in a sea of dorks. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Um,
All dorks are welcome here.
Yeah, But the pieces seem very flexible. Is that because they're done on a number 4 setting?
Um, yeah, but you want that, right? You want them to be. So this is just one piece by itself. This is a well-baked piece of clay that that I can really flex and bend. And what is it not doing? It's not cracking. It's not it's not breaking, right? So now when I put all three pieces together, there's some flex there, but it doesn't feel flimsy. But it's also light. It's pretty light. If I were to do all three on the thickest setting, it would get pretty heavy. For like this is the thickest setting here, right?
So
So and then
I'm going to
this is
interrupt.
okay. That's
Sarah
me.
Powell says, hi, she's new to the site. I'm so glad I ran across it. We're both very informative. No, I'm the lost geek in the thing. She's very informative. I just know how to ask questions. Um,
Right.
and she loves what I do. Welcome to the channel. Check out CompleteNetterMess.com. You'll find some great tutorials there. Really enjoy it. And Jane Evans says, and never be sorry to bug us again, Jane. You don't have to say that. Is the center pearl of the gem glued in or wired in?
So these are hot fix crystals. So they have like a glue on the back. So if you bake them, um, it activates that glue, and they'll stick. But because I wasn't using them on raw clay, I was using them on clay that had already been cured. I decided to use the super glue to put them in. Also, sometimes if you put them in, um, they'll slide around a little bit. If you use the heat activated glue on the back of them, they might slide around a little bit. So, this way I was able to use my tweezers and put them, right where I wanted them. I did use the super glue. And nobody's ever bugging me if they ask a question. Ask away. Ask away. We happen to have a little time today, right? So this is a good time to ask some questions if you have them.
Um,
But yeah, I mean, I probably, if I was going to make an earring with just one layer like this, and that might be pretty too, just go ahead and put one of those hot fix crystals in there. I probably wouldn't go quite this thin because I think that people would interpret this flexibleness as flimsy. Or, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably go a little bit thicker, but you should be able to flex your pieces, without, that's nice. That's nicely cured clay right there. That I can do that, and I can do that a number of times, and it's not cracking or breaking or anything like that. And I probably wouldn't flip it the other way, but you probably could.
So I
So you
had
see
one
that?
thing.
I can actually flatten that out or flip it the other way, and it's
That's kind of
still,
cool.
yeah, yeah. I think that, when you first start, you're like, what? Maybe it's not all the way cooked. But if
I,
you do
I, I
this
would.
and it cracks, it's probably not done right. So,
I'm going to interrupt you because I've got to fill a couple people in on the edits of the prior live stream and let folks know what's going on there based upon our findings this week. So I've had a project to pull down our live streams, cut off the trailer on the leader on them so that folks know it's a rebroadcast. I started that effort in earnest this week, and if you've ever seen Snoopy do Curse You Red Baron, my version is Curse You Facebook. Um, Downloading the videos, they don't download with the audio in sync. No matter what I did, poor Cynthia was 30 seconds out of phase for the audio. Not on the replay of the stream, not when you went to click on it, but when I downloaded it and edited it. So I'm going to leave those videos up as they are. One of the things we've done differently with today's stream is I've actually recorded in parallel to disk the entire stream. And we will be editing that and putting that up on YouTube, Instagram TV, and in the I don't know what Facebook calls the collection folder, but whatever it is, so that you guys can see these. The YouTubes will be closed captions, but we're not editing the closed captions. So please, if they're really wonky, let us know. We'll take a look. But editing a 90-minute closed caption file is a lot of work. But for our EU folks, we're really trying to get them something that helps them out there.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So I generally I will edit all my closed caption files, but 90 minutes of me gabbing. I don't think I'm going to do that. But if it becomes a big problem, we'll do that for you. And I do know a few people asked me this week, why did you stop streaming on YouTube? And some of that is time. And we looked at, okay, we have to cut it down to one stream, and where do most people watch us? And most people watch us here on Facebook, but we do want to put them up on YouTube, and we do know that people many people really rely at on the closed caption feature on YouTube. And I believe they now have a closed caption here on Facebook. So we will be we'll be getting it up there for you. And we'll see. We might revisit YouTube at another point.
Yeah, I mean, just to let folks know, on Facebook, we're getting, to be honest with you, a solid 40 people most times. And on YouTube, we're getting 10 to 15 if we're lucky. And it's growing in followers. It's moving in the right direction. But truthfully, it's a day's work prior to the stream to put the stream together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's another thing too. I mean, we don't want to beat a dead horse, but when I do 2 streams, it's twice the clay, right? So you gotta be realistic. I'm just gonna see.
That's awesome, Mary. She's hooked up a Roku, so she can see everything now on her 46-inch TV.
Woohoo!
I've got it set up on the 65-inch TV in the living room, and that's what I do stream tests on. So it's like you can look right up Cynthia's nose. It's really fun.
You could maybe use that as your focal point too, right?
Oh, that's an interesting concept, sweetie. I like that.
Yeah, well, it's a different shape, so it sort of tells the brain, stop here. I'd probably do a smaller.
Yeah,
but I like these little ceramic optics crystals too. So does anybody have any more questions? I want to make sure I've answered. Kritika needs to get her hands on some of the cutters. Yeah, I feel, like I said, these are from Create Along, and the gals at Create Along have been pretty generous to me, and they had sent these to me quite some time ago. And I originally designed this as an example of how you could use these cutters. But I do know that lots of people are having trouble getting filament and stuff like that. So I think they're restocking when they can. But I would be interested to see, I mean, you can use this concept, with a flower shape or any concentric
I'd
shape.
almost like to see what a holly shape would look like. I'd like to interrupt a minute here, sweetie. Sonia Patricia Osana Wong asked, she got here late, how did you put the pattern on the clay? Teresa answered silk screen, which is right. Did you want to talk any more about that?
Yeah, basically I did use a silk screen. Like I said, none of this is rocket science. There's a number of different places where you can buy silk screens. So you silk screen the clay. I just used some white paint. I'm actually one of the things I want to do with this is experiment with darker colors, and gold paint I think would look really cool. So yeah, and then you let it dry and you cut out the shapes. And these are pretty shapes. and they do go really well. Um, you know, they do go really well together. But I mean, I think even if you use different size circles,
It,
you might get an interesting result, or different size little flowers. You
Sweetie, Sue
know,
Howard is asking, is it primo? And this is a mix because I mix two kinds of clay up.
yeah. So what happens is I give Mish my scrap clay, and he puts it into sheets, and sometimes he gets fancy and he mixes colors. So this is the color that we started with, um, and it's a mix of primo and souffle. Um, this is mostly souffle. There's a souffle color called turnip, and this is I can't remember, but this is a mix of two souffle colors, right? So none of these are real pure colors. I don't have a color recipe for you. I apologize for that. But it's just kind of like a little when Mish mixes up those colors, I use them as a little color lesson for myself, right? So I started with a yellow orange color. I thought that matched pretty good. Let me move this down so you can see it. A yellow orange color, and then I used my color wheel to find what they call a triad. All right, so see, the color wheel makes it easy for you. You start up here with this, so that's that triad. If I moved here to orange, then the triad would be green and violet. If I move to red, then yellow and blue would be the triad. So this is me teaching myself. You read about color theory um, a lot, right? And you read about line, and you read about all these things, but it's good. I like to actually try to put it in practice.
So Sue Howard says that she thinks she needs a color wheel like that. They're really cool. Stacy Esme Kuntz says, thank you very much. Great tutorial as always. Jessica saying the
Thank you.
same.
Thank you.
Sweetie, we are coming up on 125. I think we claim this as a victory and march on.
So, and thank you guys for being patient with us for our technical difficulties at the beginning. I'm really glad we solved those. I'd like to be able to look and see my hands in real time. I really had a great time today. I was really tired. I wasn't sure that I was gonna, have a decent stream, but you guys, you guys, you energize me, and I really miss you all week long. I really love coming here and hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing up. We love you.
anytime,
We love your
anytime, Nikki.
guts. We love your guts. All right.
Uh, all right, guys. Thanks
Next
for
week.
coming.
No, but wait a minute. But wait a minute. I can't show it. I can't show it. But next week I'm gonna do the Soul Jelly Compact. And then either the week after that or another week, I'm gonna review making these bangle bracelets. So I'm really psyched. I'm starting to get serious about this live streaming, and I'm actually planning it out. Making a schedule. So, but love you guys, and I will see you next week.
Okay.